Have you ever grown plants in containers and felt underwhelmed with how they've performed? Well, you're not alone, and there's a very good reason why this happens. Now, we've managed to grow a good mix of plants from seed this year, including cherry tomatoes, courgette, artichoke, aubergine, plus annuals like sunflowers and nasturtiums. And one thing that's really stood out is just how much better these plants do in the ground compared to containers. When we first planted up these raised beds with artichoke, courgette and corn, we had a bit of space left over, so we popped in a few cherry tomatoes as well as some sunflowers, and they've absolutely thrived. The tomatoes in the ground have produced much more fruit than their container buddies, so much so that we can't keep up. And just look at the sunflowers. I mean, they speak for themselves. They're absolutely enormous. Whereas the sunflowers in the containers are looking a little bit dishevelled, smaller, yellowing, and generally a bit sad and droopy. I realise now that this comes down to two things. First, the plants in the ground can grow much deeper and have the space to explore. Sunflowers have surprisingly big root systems for an annual, and in the ground they can spread in all directions and hunt for water and nutrients. This space allows them to anchor firmly, grow taller and support bigger flower heads without becoming root bound like they do in pots. Because the ground stays cooler, holds onto moisture better and provides more stable conditions, the plants are under less stress without the wet and dry or hot and cold swings that can happen in containers. Secondly, garden soil is like an all-you-can-eat buffet, packed with organic matter and a wide variety of nutrients. And in pots, plants can only use what you give them. In the ground, plants can reach into different layers of soil, drawing on nutrients like nitrogen for leafy growth, phosphorus for strong roots and flowers, and potassium for fruit development. This natural buffet is a constant supply of goodness, and my cherry tomatoes have absolutely lapped it up, growing into stronger plants and rewarding us with tons of fruit.
We've been a bit gung-ho this year, and one thing I'm already changing for next season is better planning. Not just thinking about what we want to plant from month to month, but mapping out the whole sequence. So once I've decided what I want to plant over the year, I'll also plan where it will move and what I'll plant next, making the best use of the space we have all year round. A mistake we made this year was getting all excited and sowing far too much of a few plants early on. My scattergun approach to sowing cherry tomato seeds has left us with dozens of plants. What started as a couple of trays of seedlings quickly turned into an army of plants, each one needing to be potted on twice. Before we knew it, the greenhouse was full, but there wasn't much room left to sow anything else. It's of course a good idea to plant more seeds than you need, just in case they don't germinate, but try not to go overboard like we did. And then we have our pumpkins. A little planning and research would have saved us a surprise when we planned our pumpkin seeds. We popped 4 seeds into the ground thinking one seed would mean one pumpkin. Wrong. Turns out a single seed can produce 10 or more pumpkins. We did thin them out a bit and have been limiting flowers to 2 or 3 per plant, but honestly, 1 would have been more than enough for a few Halloween decorations. We're also thinking ahead with plant supports. This time we'll get the right stakes and frames in place as we plant instead of adding them as an afterthought. For perennials like our peony that pop up in early spring, we'll set the supports early so she can go up through the frame and stay upright when the blooms get heavy. In the veg beds, we'll make sure to add canes that are big enough as we transplant things like tomatoes. For annuals like nasturtiums or sweet peas, we'll plant seedlings alongside an obelisk to prevent them from sprawling on the ground. Preparation means neater borders, fewer snap stems, and plants that look good right the way through the season.
One of the absolute hardest things we've learned in the garden this year is knowing when to call time on our plants. You spend months nurturing your veggies from tiny seedlings, watching them grow and flower and cheering on every single new fruit. And then, just as they seem to be at their most productive, we step in and stop them in their tracks with a heading cut. So why do we do it? Well, towards the end of summer, the job is to go through plants like tomatoes, peppers or aubergines and pinch off any new flowers, snip away very small fruit that doesn't stand a chance of ripening, and cut the tops of plants to stop them putting out more growth. This way, all the plant's remaining energy goes into swelling and ripening the fruit it already has, giving you a better harvest before the weather turns. By late summer, the days are getting shorter, temperatures are dropping, and the clock is well and truly ticking towards the first frosts. And tomatoes, peppers and aubergines can take weeks to fully ripen, especially if the weather cools. If you let them carry on producing flowers and tiny new fruits at this point, all that energy is being split between finishing the ones you already have and starting new ones that simply won't have time to mature. It's not just about fruit quality either. Late in the season, the weather is often damp and cooler, which means diseases like blight can strike. And a plant still covered in soft green fruit and flowers is more vulnerable.
Have you ever started a new bed or border and gone through the back-breaking work of digging up the old soil or turf? Well, there is another way. One thing we couldn't wait to try in this garden was the no-dig method. And by having a go, we've learnt so much about it and the amazing benefits. With no-dig, you simply add compost wherever you want to start a new bed. To start this bed, we added a couple of layers of cardboard to suppress weeds and then added a few inches of compost on top. And that was it. So easy, and we could plant straight into it. Keeping the soil's natural structure protects the beneficial microbes living in it and helps retain moisture. As the added compost is broken down by worms, fungi and other helpful creatures, nutrients are released, improving the soil's health overall. When your soil is healthy, your plants are healthier. They cope better with drought or heavy rain, and they produce bigger harvests or more flowers. We've put in 4 new raised beds this year and filled a border with new plants, all using the no-dig method. It's been so simple and effective that next year we're planning to add even more beds the same way. If you're planning on growing fruit and vegetables in the garden, there's really one bit of advice we'd like to give to you that we wish that we'd heard at the beginning of the year. Plant stuff that you actually like to eat. Sounds simple, I know, but growing what you actually want to eat rather than what sounds fun to grow makes a huge difference. We have 4 courgette plants in this raised bed, and do you know what we've realised? We don't like courgettes. We harvest them and they sit on our kitchen counter for days. I had a go at making courgette cake, but let's just say it's not winning me Star Baker anytime soon in our house. What?
You'll see.
You'll see what?
That brings us back to the tomatoes. We do actually eat cherry tomatoes, though no one could eat the amount that we've grown this year, but they do find their way into salads and pasta sauces. The larger heirloom variety though is a bit of a different story. We just don't tend to reach for them, so they end up sitting on the counter alongside the unwanted courgettes, waiting for inspiration that never quite comes.
Our mistake with potatoes was only growing first earlies. They were delicious, and for 2 weeks we ate nothing but potatoes, but they don't really store very well, so the harvest was over almost as soon as it began. Next year we will still grow a few first earlies, but we'll also plant some main crop varieties that will keep for much longer.
We've still got a few crops that aren't quite ready to harvest, like the sweet corn here, which we love and is pricey to buy in the UK, along with a few aubergines and red peppers that are in the greenhouse. With any luck, they'll be enjoyed straight away. They won't end up sitting on the counter next to the courgettes and tomatoes.
Our new commitment to better planning should help us here too. By succession planting, we'll get a steady supply of harvest instead of everything being ready at the same time, avoiding waste from sudden gluts.
Something that we really didn't get a handle on early enough was knowing what type of soil we have in the garden. This meant we were wasting money buying plants that were destined to fail as soon as we put them in the ground. And this is one of 10 gardening mistakes that we'll show you in the video here, so make sure you watch it next.